Welcome everyone to Monday Night Raw. Ha 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 ha. Bitch. Howdy folks, LK back on the tube here. We've got another old school playthrough today for you. Today's game, Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest for the old school NES. And this particular version brought to us courtesy of romhacking.net. We've got all kinds of extra goodies that have been flashed into the game, courtesy of fans. Hard work along the way. As many of you know, this was a very poorly coded, even more poorly translated game in its original state. And over the years, we have seen several improvements, including this opening cutscene here. And the particular hacks that I am going to be using for this playthrough are Biscuit's retranslation plus map, T. Kemkis, false floors and double hearts, and Noah's penalty reduction hacks. These are all enhancers that I think make the game experience much better. It's not that the game is unbeatable in its original state. I've played through it many, many times, but with these hacks we have a much more thorough experience. I think is more true to what the game deserves. And, most importantly, it reduces the level of unnecessary grinding that we have to go through in collecting all those hearts to buy items and such. So, we don't have to do that now. And as soon as we get started here, I'm going to show you a helpful tactic if you're using these particular ROM hacks to get a jump start on the hearts, and you can get the first two items right away, which is the holy water and the white crystal, and you can be off and running. And with a little bit of luck, you can finish this game in 4 days. And I'm sure there are those out there who have done it quicker, but 4 days seems to be the mark that I shoot for and the one that I'm routinely achieving. So we're going to go for that. And this opening cutscene is just about done here. And we're about to get started. Getting started. One of the things to point out here right off the bat about this wonderful translation plus map hack by Biscuit here is we still have the password game, but we're no longer dependent on it. The game now has a save function, so at any point in time you can save your game and then reload it without having to worry about those long drawn out passwords. But that's nothing we're going to need to be concerned with on this run. This is going to be a start to finish playthrough. We're going to be moving fairly quickly, and you're not going to see me stop and talk to a lot of people along the way, just the ones that I need to, but inevitably you will get glimpses of the wonderful retranslation hack that I've got flashed on this ROM here, courtesy of Biscuit. The language in-game has been translated much more accurately than was the case back in '88 when the game first came out. We had that really, really confusing language pack to deal with. Most of it didn't make much sense, and that's just kind of the way it was back then. And I just got killed here, that's no problem. I'm just trying to get up to 100 hearts as quick as I can, and I just got it. Okay. Thanks to one of the hacks here, all the hearts are worth double. So what we're going to do now is make our way over to buy the white crystal and the holy water. And the goal here was to get this done before nightfall, so we can go ahead and make our way out of this town and officially begin the journey. So we now have enough hearts to do that, and this eliminates a lot of unnecessary grinding early on. Yes, I would. Have the crystal, and here comes the holy water. And we'll go ahead and equip both of those. Okay, so we have 14 hearts. We're in the 16th hour. Nightfall is about to be upon us. Since I got killed a couple of times, I'm going to go ahead and die to the point where I have to continue, because these hearts really come in handy as we push forward to eliminate all that unnecessary grinding. So you don't want to have a bunch of hearts saved up and then inevitably get killed and have to continue and lose half of them. That kind of sucks. So at this point we're off and running, and here comes one of the really, really cool things about the retranslation map hack. We're getting ready to go through the day to night transition, and check it out, seamlessly there. We didn't have the box to interrupt us to tell us what a horrible night to have a curse. It shifted right over on its own, and that's pretty damn cool. Oops. And right now I'm just pushing forward, trying not to burn any lives, because again, it's important to hang on to as many hearts as we can. Throw these guys off here so I can push forward. Eventually, obviously, we will get some better weapons and won't have to be so careful as we track on. And we are on our way to the first mansion. We're going to go ahead and get that knocked out. If we try to go down the steps right now, there's no way we're going to be able to hit that town and get the helpful items there that we need. So we might as well make use of our time and knock out that first mansion. And this is a very special game out of my childhood. As we enter the first mansion here, we have the white crystal, so we can now see this platform. And for those of you that don't know, when you're inside of a mansion, the time stops for whatever reason. So this would be one of the areas where you would be doing a lot of the grinding, collecting those hearts and whatnot. Not really necessary now that we've got this really cool double heart hack. We are just going to work our way through here and get the item that we need, which in this mansion is Dracula's rib. But as I alluded to earlier, this is one of the really, really special games out of my childhood. A lot of people obviously hated this game because of some of the issues that I've already touched on, with the language pack being poorly coded, and my timing just totally stinks right now. Hopefully this will improve. But with the language being out of whack and players not having helpful clues along the way to really figure out where the hell they're supposed to go, and this is one of the really cool things about the false floors hack. The blocks that would originally be there, but you could easily fall through them, are automatically wiped out for us, so we don't have to walk and throw holy water every couple of steps worrying about falling through one of the floors here. So that's really helpful. Just another time-saving aspect here that makes this game more enjoyable. As we work our way down, we are on our way over to get the stake that's going to be needed to crack open that orb to get the rib. But, oh, absolutely. Alright, so we have 167 hearts. We have the holy water, the white crystal, and now the oak stake. And we are in really good shape moving forward here. But picking up from earlier, a lot of people hated this game, and I understand why. I mean, it was really tough to figure out if you didn't have Nintendo Power Magazine, that infamous Volume 2 edition of the book that had Simon Belmont holding a severed head of Count Dracula, which I always thought was cool as hell. As a kid, it did not bother me or give me nightmares, but then again, as a kid, I was already watching Friday the 13th and Halloween and A Nightmare on Elm Street and all that good stuff, so it was going to take more than that to rattle me and cause me to have nightmares. And right here is a pretty good example of the retranslation. The original text would have said, "You now process Dracula's rib." As you can see, that's been corrected. So, good deal on that. And now we start to make our way out of here. And actually, I believe it's this floor I can go ahead and fall through. Yeah, kind of a little shortcut to get back out of here faster. And right now you see my experience at 91. While I'm here, I might as well go ahead and up it to 100, and that will effectively raise my level. It'll refill my power, and it'll take more damage to deplete the life meter. And we're almost there. There we go. Alright. Definitely use that life bar being refilled with the way I'm trying to save time here, and I don't really, I mean, I guess you could call this a speed run. I don't really refer to it as such, but with the style that I'm playing with here, I don't get a lot of chances to visit the church and refill my power. A lot of times it's done by reaching these new experience levels, so generally, although I won't really go out of my way to kill enemies, I do normally kill every enemy that I come in contact with because I need the hearts to be able to buy stuff, and the experience definitely helps. And now that we have the rib, we can equip it. And it makes a nice shield for us. And actually, we can go ahead and go back the other way. We can start making our way back down toward the staircase that we bypassed earlier. When I walked off to the right-hand side of the screen and the enemy started taking 4 direct shots with the whip to kill, that's a pretty good indication that that's an area of the map that you're technically not supposed to go to just yet. That's one rule of thumb that you can keep in mind along the way. If you are, if it's taken that many hits to destroy something, you may not be necessarily supposed to go there. So if you kind of get lost or whatever. Speaking of which, this is the map. Just occurred to me to show this to you. And really cool entry. And again, this is the retranslation plus map hack, courtesy of Biscuit. Hope I'm saying that guy's name right. And we've got just a little bit longer here before daytime. And I'm just going to chill out here. Actually, what I'll do is get into town and I'll get right next to the door here where I've got to go. That way, as soon as daytime hits, I can zip right in there, get what I need, and start moving forward. This is one of those pockets of the game where I don't really like to waste a lot of time. In my mind, I'm kind of on this particular schedule, so to speak. But, you know, if it ends up taking a little bit longer, it's not going to stress about it. I mean, it's a 30-plus-year-old game, so we do this for fun, a way to wind down and relax, as I've always said. So I don't want to let the game stress me out any kind of way. So we're going to go ahead and get the dagger here. And I don't think there's anything beyond this that particular wall, but good rule of thumb, I always check just to be sure. Careful coming out of there so you don't fall into the water and die. And for good measure, while I'm here, I guess I can go ahead and get this bar restored. And here's where you can see the retranslation. And you know, we're just kind of going off of someone else's work. I mean, I assume that's what he was originally supposed to say. I'm not 100% certain on that, but it does sound better than what's said in the original port, so I don't have a problem with that at all. How many hearts do we have? 251. Beautiful. I'm absolutely interested, sir. Oh, and something else to point out on the whips. When you get a new whip, you can actually go back and select the older one if you so desire. I don't really care about that. I'm definitely don't want to go back down to a weaker whip, especially considering where we're going. But you do have that option if that's something that you want to do. Alright, now that we got this chain... Oh wow, I can't believe I just fell in there. Now that we have this chain whip, we are ready to kick some booty and move forward. Very careless mistake falling into that marsh there. But it's one that I will live with as we press on. And in a game where you are racing to try to beat the clock to get the best ending, which is to beat the game in 7 days, I think it's what's under 8 days, so technically you can surpass 7 as long as it stays underneath that. But, you know, in a game where you're trying to beat that clock, it can be really difficult to try to pace yourself and be patient and wait for certain enemies to get to better spots on the screen where you can attack them. But I always try to say pace yourself to a certain extent. Don't get in too much of a rush, or you'll find yourself taking lots of unnecessary damage. And here's the flame. It now becomes an item we can use to attack with. Not really going to worry about it right now, but it will come in handy later on, so it's definitely not one we want to miss. I'm going to go for full items here on this run. I'm going to try not to leave anything out. So, and Bloody Tears, which is the name of the soundtrack you hear when you're outside of the towns and mansions during the day, it's gone on to become pretty iconic in the franchise, and seems like there's various new versions that get composed over the years, but it definitely brings on the nostalgia anytime I hear it. And in bypassing that staircase, we are kind of hightailing it now to the next town. We want to be able to get up there and swap this white crystal out for a blue one before nightfall, and we should have just enough time to do that. And again, no time's coming off the clock right now, so we can do this. And I believe we're going to get some garlic here, if I remember correctly. Yes. And believe it or not, these 2 pieces of garlic are actually the only 2 you need in the entire game, if you use them correctly. They make certain people appear who give you items. One of them I'm actually getting ready to see here shortly. And I believe there's some Laurels here. Either that or this could be a wasteful stop. Might be somebody who says something dumb. Can't really remember. Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay. Well, luckily, whenever you're inside these town citizens' houses here, you are not burning any time off the clock. So, it's not like a detour down here cost us anything. The hour is at 14.5, and of course the guy that we're looking for is all the way up the steps, the highest point of the game, and all the way off to the far western side. So they definitely don't make it easy on you. And this may be where we can pick up a couple Laurels here, which do come in handy later on. We're doing fine on money. Sure. Alright, good deal. Alright, let's go see our crystal bearer and make the swap here. We are at 15.5. I think we still got enough time to get up there before nightfall. And this is actually a pivotal moment in the game if you're trying to make time. This is one of those things where if you're not fast enough, it can cost you. It can cost you pretty much an entire day if you're trying to get through this as quick as you possibly can. And here we go. Alright. Now we have the blue crystal, which is essential, something that we need to reach the next mansion that we have to go to. But beforehand, we have a short detour we want to take. We're about to go get the gold dagger from a generous fellow at the graveyard. And whether it's day or night, this man will appear if garlic is placed. And this is one of the 2 pieces of garlic that come in handy during the game. And I think I said earlier it was a gold dagger, and yeah, that's incorrect. It's a silver knife. Actually, Death, or the Grim Reaper, whatever you want to call him, gives you the golden knife a little bit later on. So, my apologies, I stand corrected. And we're working our way back to the last staircase that we saw, which will take us to a lake where we can use this blue crystal and magically find the mansion, I guess, that lives in this underwater Atlantis type of a world. Well, how the hell else you would reach this thing? And if you make the mistake and accidentally go this way and reach this body of water without the blue crystal, you will definitely lose time. You'll have to wait until the next day cycle to be able to meet the gentleman in the last town who swaps out your crystal. And that can get annoying again, especially again if you're trying to make time. And here we are. Blue crystal selected, and we'll kneel for about 5 seconds or so. And Magica. That's right, don't need to go that way. And here's our next mansion. We equip Dracula's rib, so we have a shield. And time will stand still for us now. And people have asked me along the way, why do I like this game so much? Well, what about it, do I find appealing? And I don't know, I think the answer is, I'm not going to say loaded, but it's one of those things. I think the fact that this game was so challenging in the beginning, because I myself was one of those people who, I had trouble trying to figure out what it is you're supposed to do, and so I think to me as a kid, this game probably was one of those that at one time I considered it unbeatable. And then lo and behold, you finally figure out what to do and you see the ending of the game. All of a sudden it, I don't know, it has some kind of magic to it, I guess. When you go from not being able to do squat on a game to suddenly beating it and then kind of figuring out you have that aha moment. Now I see what I'm supposed to do. That does, have a way of changing things. This is going to be our stake guy. Surely we have 50 hearts built back up. Oh yeah, we're good to go there. Thought there might have been one of those pseudo clues in there, which actually are better written now with this translation patch, ROM hack, whatever you want to call it, so they make much more sense now. The little clues that you have that often reference Dracula's riddle. And I don't think people ever really figured out exactly what that is, Dracula's riddle per se. I had heard it said that, it was just something that the townsfolk refer to because they are too afraid to give you real information because they are afraid of Dracula and his minions and whatnot, but I think that's probably reading a little too much into it. By the sound of the way this thing was originally coded, I don't think they thought that far into it. Gotta time this jump like right at the hair edge of that block. So now we're good. This may be one. Yeah. You don't say. Sounds a lot like what just happened. So, as you can see, that there are helpful things along the way, little hints that you can get here that will assist you in your quest. And we've arrived to the magic orb here that has the next item for us, as we strike it with the oak stake. Ooh, the heart. And this item's going to come in handy later with the Ferryman at the river. He is a very essential part of the quest. You show him Dracula's heart and he takes you to a secret location where another one of the mansions are accessible. So we will definitely need that. Pretty close to that next experience milestone, I think. It's either 125 or it may even be 150 now, so I don't know. I can't tell you right off the top of my head here if I'm gonna grind for it or not. Wouldn't really be that much grinding, but I am kind of in need of a power refill here, and can't remember off the top of my head when the next time I'm gonna encounter a town in the daytime where I can visit a church. We'll see how far we have to go when we get back to the entrance here. As of right now, I will slay any monster in my way and hope that we achieve it organically without having to grind. Ah, well, so much for that. It's not needed now. I remember there was a ledge somewhere here that I can't drop off of, and obviously that was it. I think any other time in the game when you see that, it seems like a safe drop, but that's one where obviously it's not. Funny thing is that probably had the false floor hack applied to where the block was even darkened out to try to assist you, and off I went anyway. But no matter. Alright, so we're at 111 now. Again, I'm not sure if it's 125 or 150. Alright, so here we are outside the mansion. I skipped ahead just a little bit because I did end up grinding that out a little bit. Took a couple extra minutes to get to the next experience level. That'll assist us along the way. So, didn't want to bore you guys to death while I took a couple minutes to do that. Now we are on our way back, and we're heading back the same way we came. Heading back to the main town that we started in, and we're now ready to go west. We're powerful enough to head that way without taking fatal damage. And once again, I am trying like heck to make time. Gonna try to get to the town that has the gentleman that gives us the red crystal, as that will save us precious time along the way as well. Whew. I was hoping I could avoid that last one. Trying not to get too crazy here, but I am trying to speed through it a little bit. Wish I had that that ricocheting crystal that we will get before too long, which will help us with these weird directional enemies that the game decides to throw at you. It's times like these where we really miss having the axe. That's the one weapon in the game. Well, I guess besides the stopwatch that didn't make the transition over to part 2 for whatever reason. Well, I guess with the clock, I mean, the game doesn't want you spamming the ability to pause time at will, especially when the game is counting down, and it's a race against that clock to try to get the best endings and whatnot. But so far we're doing alright. This is a mansion we've already hit, so just going to continue west here. And something I found funny when I was researching this game. Apparently at one time Simon's Quest got criticized for backtracking of all things. Like, one of the omnipotent experts of the day thought the game's low point is all the backtracking. And I find this pretty bizarre because this is the only noteworthy instance of backtracking in the entire game. I mean, you basically have one 3-minute stretch from the second mansion back to the first town. And after that, you're in uncharted territory the rest of the way. Just kind of makes you wonder. If they were annoyed by this, just imagine the freaking fits Hideo Kojima gave him back in the day with those old Metal Gear games, and the first Metal Gear Solid. Whoa. And if I remember right, we should just make it to the guy with the red crystal before the next nightfall. And if we do that, that'll help us a lot, because we'll then be able to kind of go off and do a few more things, hit another mansion and get an item or two, and we won't be affected by having to wait for him when we make our way back through that area. Because I think if you kind of do things in chronological order as you come across it, I think you get put in a spot where you have no choice but to wait for him, and it's quite a bit of time that goes by. So you don't want to burn that much. Just want to keep moving. And right now we're still doing pretty good as far as time goes, but we do need to hurry a little bit. And we want to get to the ferryman here at the river without having to use Dracula's heart just yet. Might as well go ahead and burn one of these laurels. And here we are at the town. And the guy we're looking for is right here. Woo! And we made it with very, very little time to spare. Look at that. We're getting ready to strike the 18th hour, but now we have that crystal, and we can go ahead and move on. I don't think there's anything else of value here. Of course, I just missed it anyway. The Morning Star, I think, is the next town over, if I remember right, and we'll be seeing that here in just a little bit. So in order to get this trick to work at the ferry here, we need to be on the opposite side, so we'll let him take us back. For whatever reason, it won't let you use it from the west side of the lake, and we now see the guy again. So we can select the heart and approach him, and we should be in good shape. Alright, here we are. Let's go ahead and get our shield back. And here's a mansion for us. One of the questions that I'm asked often these days is, what is my opinion of emulators and ROM hacks in terms of, you know, legalities, and is it unethical and whatnot? I definitely see the argument from both sides, and from an ethics standpoint, yes, it's not exactly legal for the ROM hacks to be tampering with the copyrighted work of a game developer / publisher. Emulation is an unauthorized reproduction of a copyrighted work. I get all that. But on the other side of the token, we're talking about a game that's over 30 years old, in Simon's Quest specifically. One that was plagued with flawed development, poor translation, and it was put out to the market in, some would say beta mode. And with that being the case, you're talking about 2019. I don't think you're going to walk up in I almost said Toys R Us and find Simon's Quest. You're not going to walk up in Toys R Us, period, anymore. But you're not going to walk into a Best Buy, GameStop, Target, Walmart, and find a cartridge of Simon's Quest on the shelf for $49.99. It's just not going to happen. Me personally, it doesn't bother me from a moral standpoint that a bunch of passionate fans banded together to make something they love better. I don't think that this game being emulated is going to cost Konami any revenue in 2019. Even with the Castlevania collection about to come out, I think either this year or next year, that game's going to have about, I think, 10 or so Castlevania games on it, at least the last time I saw the game list. I don't think that a souped-up version of Simon's Quest that's readily available on a website somewhere is going to stop Konami's earnings from this collection that's going to come out. So, looking at it from that point of view, sure, from an ethics standpoint, it's not exactly smiled upon, but it would be different if people were taking a game like, say, Red Dead Redemption 2, which hasn't even been out a year, and they were stripping the code and reproducing the game, and people were able to play it on emulators without buying it, and that actually cut into Rockstar's revenue from sales. Sure, I could totally understand that, but in 2019, I don't know if Simon's Quest, and I wouldn't bet on it, is making up a huge portion of that company's earnings. And I mean, never mind that, what they did to Hideo Kojima a few years ago. Fuck Konami. I'll happily sit here and play this game for free. Yes, I would. I'm not too sure about it, but this might be the mansion where we run up against death and get that golden dagger, which actually is really, really helpful the rest of the game. Some of the enemies that we'll face, it's a really nice perk to have. And this might be him right here. Ah, no, he's coming. Next room. Good damn it. And I believe I read on one of these particular hacks, it could be the retranslation plus map, that Death's hit points have been doubled, because it's pretty infamously known that he is very easy to beat in this game, and even though his hit points have been doubled, little has changed. We have the golden dagger now, and we can get this next item here. Oops. Well, it was the eyeball, is what we got. And now we're ready to move on. See how easy it is to bypass death. And in the original game, it's not a must that you have to beat him. If you want the dagger, of course, you do, but you don't have to beat him in order to get the eyeball and to progress on out of here. So he was notoriously easy to beat in the old game, and again, I believe they may have doubled his hit points or something, but and I think it's the hack that outrightly states he's still very easy, but they did give him a little bit of a boost there. Anyone who is familiar with Castlevania games knows Death is generally, in a lot of cases, harder to beat than Dracula when it comes right down to it. I'm going to go ahead and buy an extra stake, so the next mansion that we come to, we don't have to go out of our way and mess with it. You know, you would think there'd be a way to get through there and get back without having to mess around with the rest of this, and there could be. It's been a little while, of course, since I have actually sat down and gone through this game, so some of the stuff is not nearly as fresh on my mind as it would have been, say, a year ago. And truth be told, I've held off on doing this video for a long time. It's actually been one of the top requested videos I've gotten over the years, and I meant to get to it years ago. But I also wanted to make a live-action short film to go with the playthrough, using this vision that I've had in my mind for, I don't know, probably about the last decade. And I was holding out, hoping that my filmmaking resources would eventually catch up to the scale, I guess, this idea that I see in my mind. And sadly, recording this commentary here in 2019, that has not happened. This short film that I see in my mind, and the one that I've always wanted to make, it just can't be done properly with the current stuff that I have. You know, these resources like equipment, location, budget for the additional stuff I would need talent, obviously, to make sure that the acting roles are properly cast, and the list goes on. I mean, if I were to try to execute this idea with what's available right now to me, it could easily be one of the worst things I've ever done. So, with that in mind, as much as I enjoy playing through the game, and, you know, especially considering these really cool ROM hacks that have popped up over the years, I figured why not. Now seems like a good a time as any. And now we're out of here. And this should be the route that we follow to get the diamond from the guy in the graveyard, I believe. Want to be sure and do that before you go back to see the Ferryman and go back to the, quote, regular area of the map. And here's where you're going to see this dagger really at work. This is a really strong weapon to have at your disposal, because this is an area of the map where there are enemies galore. They're everywhere. And here's our guy. Great. And now we're ready to make our way back. How are we doing on hearts? Oh, really well. Would just like to personally thank the Grim Reaper for this wonderful golden dagger, and it really wasn't that hard to get. Stopped him and then ran right into him. Alright, we don't want to mess around too far here, because we want to try to make time and reach the next town over from where we were before with the red crystals, so we can get the Morning Star before time runs out on us. We don't want to accidentally get caught there at night and miss our opportunity to get it. And now we should be able to hit the Ferryman and get back to reality, so to speak. This is like a hidden area of the map. And off we go. Hell if I know. Alright, this is our town, but we are going to bypass this. And it's funny there, if we were to have gone to the secret place and gotten the eyeball and then tried to come back, that would not have worked out. As far as catching that guy with the red crystal, it would have kind of screwed all our timing up, and we would have had to have waited a long time to try to get that going again correctly. And these guys are immune to that. How about that? Alright, and if we run this way, let's see. I don't want to burn a laurel just here, but we should be able to get our hands on the silk bag and make our way back. Trying not to stop to smell the dead roses here and taking unnecessary damage. Alright, and here's the point of the game where the other piece of garlic is used, and it summons this guy. Gives us the silk bag where we can carry more items. Alright, let's see how fast we can get on out of here. Oh, goody. Gotta hit him in the head. He's throwing daggers like a madman, folks. Woo. Oh man, did you see that? Alright, we've got a little bit of time here to find this place. And I don't think it's this one now. Definitely gonna need our holy water here. Yeah, blah blah blah. Alright, it's 15 and a half. I believe we have to go to the far left side and then go up, if I remember right. We get this morning star and we are in good shape. And from this point on, we don't have to worry about the timing in these towns. But we do need to hurry up here. Here it is, I believe. And this is going to be our guy. 200. Yes, sir. Make sure there's nothing else around here. Alright, we're in the 17th hour of the 3rd day. And I believe... Again, I can't... Sometimes I get these towns mixed up, but we might be able to make it to a church and refill before nightfall. Boy, wouldn't that be nice. I'm not counting on it, but we might be able to. Probably wishful thinking now. Yep. Okay. Well, screw it. Moving on. Behold the power of the morning star. Where'd you get something like this? We are definitely switching back over to the golden dagger. Alright, let's do this. About that. Well, let's press the red ruby against Deborah Cliff. It's like magic. It truly is. And from this point forward, I'm not really going to be worried about hearts and lives and continues and stuff. We're at 679 right now. I think we're going to be doing okay there. Because if we have to burn a continue, we will retain 50% hearts. And at this point, I can't think of anything else that we need to buy. Everything else is kind of procure on site. Now that I have this morning star, I am a happy camper. And we are on our way. And keep in mind as well, I bought that extra steak from the last mansion that we were in, so I don't have to go out of my way and find the steak guy. Although I'd like to right about now. Freaking T-bone would be just what the doctor ordered. Maybe some prime rib. I suppose that was supposed to be a false room for us. Ah, well, I could feel that coming. Alright, well, we still have another live before we have to continue anyway, so no harm, no foul. And again, even if we did, I wouldn't be overly concerned about it right now. And if we needed a stake, here's the guy. I'm trying to think, if we drop down, is it going to screw us up? Okay, yeah, we need to be down one more, don't we? Okay. Well, that's cool. Seeing a lot of that classic NES slowdown here. There's too much happening on the screen at the same time. Games didn't like that back then. Alright, here we are. Well, happy day. And we've got 2 more items left to get. One of them is a cross, and the other is Dracula's ring. And we'll find those in our next mansion, which is due west of here. Of course, we have to trudge through a lot of marsh to get there, which I hope we'll be able to make it out of with, what, 2 Laurels? Doesn't sound like the kind of odds that will be tipping the scales in my favor, but we'll do our best. One cool thing is the level ups that I've gotten to this point will come in handy for that. The marsh won't drain my power meter as fast as it would if I didn't take the time to grind it out a little bit earlier and raise that level. So at least there's that. Alright, and here we go. Gonna be heading for some nasty marsh here. Oh, actually, wait a second. Before we head that way, gotta go meet the gentleman who is going to give us the flame whip. He will touch the Morning Star with unprecedented power. If you don't have the Morning Star, he will deny you that really cool giveaway of his. Damn. No, 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 no. There we go. Man, these skulls aren't messing around here. And here we are. Sounds good to me. Oh yeah. And as we all know, the gameplay of Simon's Quest is quite the departure from the original Castlevania game, along with Part 3. Came out for the NES, and apparently it was inspired by another game by Konami called The Maze of Galious, which came out for the MSX. And the irony here being that the gameplay designer for Castlevania 2, Hitoshi Akamatsu, I believe is his name, denied Nintendo's Metroid had anything to do with the inspiring of the gameplay of Simon's Quest. But the sprite for Maze of Galious' 2 main characters looks exactly like Link from Legend of Zelda, which, like Metroid, came out about a year prior to Maze of Galious. Pretty ironic. And also, the playstyle of Simon's Quest, to me, it heavily resembles Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, which was released about 9 months prior. It's a very similar action-adventure game with a lot of the same role-playing elements and nearly identical concept of walking into houses and towns and getting info from NPCs. Total coincidence, I'm sure. Alright, here's the marsh. Well, here goes nothing. See if we can at least reach the mansion here, and I think we will. Might actually be right here. Yeah. Well, that wasn't too bad. And there's a guy in here who will give us Laurels, so we can pretty much make it anywhere after that. Ass monkey. And we want to be real careful not to miss the guy that gives us all those lovely laurels so we can get the hell out of here without dying. And I believe we'll find him down on one of the lower levels. And I can't tell you how much this false floors hack really comes in handy, where you don't have to worry about plunging to your sudden death because of one of these invisible blocks that you don't have the ability to see through. Ah, here's our guy. Okay. Oh, he actually filled us up. So what we will do is go ahead and use one and get refilled again. Alright, good deal. Here's our guy who has the cross, but we have not encountered the guy with the oak stake yet. I think he's up. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Should have gone this way before I went down to the guy with the laurels. And here we are. Alright, good deal. So, took a slight detour there. No big deal. We can start heading back down now. Uh-oh. Ah, that's right. We do have to drop off over there. Down into the spikes like Roy Burns from Friday the 13th. And to beat this weird mask guy, we're just going to use the golden dagger. Make short work of him. There we are. We obtained the Rosary, or otherwise known as the Crucifix, which they were, I guess, not comfortable in saying. Alright, now we've got Dracula's ring. Notice all the blood in this room here, it's pretty cool. And as we check our item list, we now have everything we need. I don't know about the clue count, I never really care about that, but we do have all our items, and we are now ready to beat the game. So, let's backtrack out of here. And we are also on the 4th day, so we should reach my initial goal of the 4-day mark, even though it's technically slightly past that. As long as the 4th day is not completed, then the game still credits you for having done this in less than 4. Or I guess no more than 4, I should say. I don't like spiders. Wow. Man, some monsters just refuse to be hit by this thing. Sometimes you just gotta go back to what works. Gotta go back to the old classic. Alright, working our way back out here. And I believe there's just more marsh this way and leads back to that graveyard, the one where we originally got the silver knife, so not necessary to go that way. Let's get ready to hit these laurels here. Ha, perfect timing. Reminds me when I was a kid. I used to be able to do that at will, almost with my eyes closed. Alright, let's get our golden dagger back. That will definitely come in handy here as we push forward. We're still doing good on time. And we're going to be heading east here until we get to a staircase where there are some skeletons with kind of a reddish tint to them. And that will be our final detour. Ah, that was cheap. Come on. I think this is the town where people are pissed at you, if I remember right. Might as well while we're here. case. Not gonna bother with talking to anyone. Let's just push on. Yeah, these are the skeletons I was talking about. We'll see these guys hanging around a staircase, and that's going to be the one that we'll take. That'll lead us to, I think, the last town, which we'll breeze straight through, and then we will come up on the bridge to Dracula's castle, which we can now enter. We now have the items to get in there. I'm not even going to care about this. Just go. God damn it. Shield doesn't work when you're moving. Well, it does sometimes. It depends on what type of enemy you have in front of you. So this is going to be very fitting. We are going to reach Dracula's castle in the middle of the night, as it should be. And we're on our way to the Vlad Graveyard. Very appropriately named. More of these goofy, stork-looking bat bastards. Game likes to throw in your face to slow you down. Whatever. We are not going to be stopped. Absolutely not. We've come too far. Alright, there's two ways to get up here. We can either use the holy water and break these, or, since we have the nail, we can have it selected and bust our way through. Doesn't really matter. What matters is we get across this bridge, and we do so before we reach the 5th day, so we can hit our mark here. And we're just about there, folks. As we check the map here, we are crossing that western bridge. And on the other side, you guessed it, here's the ruins. I love this music. Absolutely love it. Always have. It's one of my favorite tracks in any game ever. Unlocks so much nostalgia, I can't even begin to tell you. And I'm gonna need us some holy water here. And we are just about there, folks. Coming down into the final room, and we might as well go ahead and get prepared. There's a few different ways you can take Dracula out. I like to start throwing fire on him as soon as I get in there, as soon as he starts to appear, and then later we can finish him off with the golden dagger or the whip, whatever. And here we go. This is the culmination of our long journey. Well, really wasn't that long because of the hacks. We didn't have to stand around and grind for an unnecessary hour. And here we are. Could go ahead and start catching him while he's kind of blinking his way in, so to speak. And now we should be able to switch over to this dagger. Not gonna take much of this at all. There it is. And we should get the reward for, should get the acknowledgement rather, for the 4 days. This is the best ending in the game. The one where, once again, the original translation of the game was all screwed up. When you got to this ending, it made you think Simon was killed. That is believed to be incorrect. The best ending of the game is this cool color scheme we get here, and Simon is supposed to live, from what I understand. The worst ending, the one where you get the black and white landscape, in the original game tells you Simon lives, but it's widely believed that's the one where he is intended to perish. But all has been restored in this wonderful ROM hack by longtime fans of this game who have put in tireless hours to correct a lot of the errors and mistakes that were made all those years ago. And seeing this screen and hearing this music, I can't tell you exactly what it does. It unlocks nostalgia, and it just takes me away to, I guess, a time in my life where there weren't many problems and there wasn't much to stress about. You just enjoyed life because you didn't know any other way. I think that's why it means so much to me, to this day. Haha, is that badass or what? That's the best ending of the game right there, folks. And here's some credits for you. We got all the items, did it in 4 days and 22 hours, so just under the 5-day mark. Probably could do it a little bit quicker, but honestly, I'm probably near my ceiling as far as the time it takes me to get through this. Without the use of passwords and skipping around, we started from scratch, got all our items, and here's our final result. Some final thoughts on this game before we close out here. I've always been kind of put off when I hear the phrase ahead of its time. I don't know, to me it just always sounds like a cheap scapegoat on why a bad idea failed. But in the case of Simon's Quest, while I was playing, it occurred to me that Symphony of the Night is generally regarded as the best Castlevania game ever, and fans loved it because the style of gameplay deviated from the traditional style of the older games. There were RPG elements like leveling up from XP after killing enemies, and the game's familiar action-adventure style coined the term Metroidvania. Haha. There's that strange Nintendo comparison again. And yes, Konami, I'm sure Super Metroid had nothing to do with inspiring Symphony of the Night. But regardless, this style of play was considered groundbreaking for the Castlevania games and would undoubtedly influence the rest of the series. Isn't it interesting though that Simon's Quest offered the same thing 10 years prior? Same action-adventure theme with the same RPG elements, and it was mostly hated, passed over, and left Konami no choice but to go back to the linear style of the original game. Poor translation aside, I think it's fair to say that Simon's Quest was ahead of its time. I was 8 when it first came out here in the States, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't have a subscription to Nintendo Power magazine at the time, and the notion of a smartphone that could pull up a walkthrough in 10 seconds was something not even Back to the Future predicted. As it was, kids of the 1980s were more conditioned to the typical run-and-gun, left-to-right platformers that were saturating the market back in those days. And Simon's Quest, much like Zelda 2, brought a different kind of flavor that most gamers just weren't accustomed to. Fast forward a decade later, a certain 5th-generation console had completely changed the landscape, with gamers now sinking their teeth into expanded adventure titles like Tomb Raider and immersive RPGs like Final Fantasy VII. It's no surprise how a game like Castlevania Symphony of the Night found its audience right away. And as for Simon, well, he and his quest got to the party a little too early, and as such is remembered as the black sheep of the Castlevania series. But in the modern era, where retro consoles are currently all the rage, this is a game that I always recommend people check out. With various ROM hacks that correct the game's flawed development and enhance portions of the gameplay that weren't so popular, if you're in a retro kind of mood, pull up a walkthrough and give Castlevania 2 a shot, and you just might walk away feeling like it isn't nearly as bad as most people say. And for more info on the modded version I played here in this video, hit the link in the description. Thanks for watching.